Hi, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Prey vs. Predator. Quick reminder that we have a Patreon page. You can give as little as $3 a month to support us in our efforts to educate and arm the prey of the world. Thanks again for tuning in, and we really hope you enjoyed this episode. Hi, and welcome back to Prey vs. Predator. We are so happy for you to join us again. Today, we're going to discuss boundaries. We are going to expose the tools that predators use. We are going to give you examples of when you are in that relationship from our own personal stories or even stories that we've heard from. And lastly, we're going to talk about what prey can do, if anything, to deal with these behaviors by these predators. So our topic today is boundaries, and that is our goal.
Awesome.
Why don't you define this for us, Amber?
Yes. So personal boundaries. Now, I just looked it up in Wikipedia. Thank you, Wikipedia. But it is a practice of openly communicating and asserting personal values as a way to preserve and protect against having them compromised or violated. The term boundary is a metaphor, with inbounds meaning acceptable and out of bounds meaning unacceptable. Without values and boundaries, our identities become diffused and often controlled by the definitions offered by others. So I often see it as a fence that you put around yourself and to say, let me welcome some people in to this core area of myself, but some people cannot go against the boundary. Now, we've had a very energetic conversation previous to this about what is a boundary. And for me, this definition really works because I use it with my predator. There are certain things that I will discuss and there's certain things I will not discuss. And because I don't live with my predator, it makes it easy to do. So I see this as a very valuable tool. But I know each of us come at this from a different life experience. So PJ, do you want to explain your definition of a boundary?
Yeah, and it's not that I love the definition that you're talking about, especially that idea of a fence, in terms of this is what is okay. Anything, on this side of the fence is okay and wonderful, and anything on that side is uncomfortable or not safe or violating or that type of thing. The definition that hits for me is this definition by Prentice Hemphill. She says, boundaries are the distance of which I can love you and me simultaneously. So there's so much in this one sentence. I'm going to read it again. Mm-hmm. Boundaries are the distance of which I can love you and me simultaneously. This one hits home for me, and we'll, of course, get more deep into this. But it assumes that I want to love you, and it assumes that I want to love me. So I think part of when we're talking about boundaries is there is an implied assumption that part of my boundaries are within the context of wanting to love you and also wanting to love me. And so boundaries in and of themselves, by this definition, are loving and are an act and a gift of love and connection.
Right.
And a healthy, wonderful part of connection.
Yeah. Yeah, I sort of see boundaries can go one of two ways. I think of boundaries as what can I do? This is what I am able to do in this relationship. However, for the predator, those boundaries can be unhealthy, and it's what can't you do? Mm-hmm. So you can't ask for what you need, or you can't ask for what you want. And PJ, in your definition, just read that definition one more time, because it's so good.
Boundaries are the distance of which I can love you and me simultaneously.
Yeah, right. But the predator only cares about loving themselves.
Yes.
The predator doesn't care about loving you. Your needs aren't important. So,
and can I add to that? A prey is a person who instinctually looks to love other people,
right,
but forgets to love themselves.
Right. Because if we loved ourselves, if we actually asked for, like, I know with me, I would never ask for what I needed because I was so afraid to be rejected. It was easier for me to have no needs, no wants, no desires. It was safer, I guess, for me to have no needs than to ask for what I needed and to be rejected.
Right. Because if you didn't ask, you didn't have to risk the relationship being hurt.
Yep.
You got hurt, but not the relationship.
Yeah. And I was just willing to take it all.
I think it's also part of our training. I think maybe because my predator was a parent, it's part of our training to not think about our needs, and maybe that's something, because we've talked about that too, PJ, is like, you forget, like, I'm scouting the room out for danger. And what do you need? So, and what is important to me is irrelevant, And I know when I was doing this movement voice training, when they were teaching us to help other people with their voices and stuff, they would often say, look at yourself, what's going on in your body before you can help the other person, which was the hardest thing. And I still have to remind myself, because it's constantly, what do you need? What do you need? What do you need? Rather than, what am I sensing in my body right now in your presence?
Do you think some of that has to do with, so being raised by a predator, for you, was part of you attending to and being attuned to the predator's boundaries, and then the predator not caring about yours, not respecting yours, might be a better way to say it. Do you think that trained you, so to speak, to do that? Like, was that part of your early training?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's interesting, because you're right. It's the predator, what you're saying, Jill, it's like the predator has these boundaries, but you're not allowed to have boundaries.
Right.
But at the same time, I'm learning as a grown-up to have boundaries with my predator.
And I do think, like what you said, Amber, I'm thinking of being raised in a Christian environment. Children honor your parents. Children obey your parents. I think I saw me having a boundary or a need as perhaps dishonoring to my parents. There was also an old adage, it's not from the Bible, but children should be seen and not heard. And, how many generations of kids were brought up that way, basically saying, okay, you don't have needs, guys, because that's not how we do things here.
Not even verbalize your needs. I think there becomes a thing where you don't even know you have them.
Right.
That's even more basic. Yep. It's like, I don't even... it goes so deep and so young that I think it's like, you don't even know how to process that you even need them. Do I even have needs? I shouldn't have needs. But I know my training is at the foundation. It's like you're groomed in a way, but maybe trained is a better word, to not have needs. So you don't even know if your boundary's been violated, because you don't even have any sort of sense.
It makes me think of this concept of you're looking to the other person to validate your boundaries. That's what I think you're both talking about. So my boundary can't exist unless the other person says it can. And I don't know what to call that, but I don't think it's a boundary. So as you're talking, Amber, and Jill too, I'm having this thought, and I think this is something for us to explore. Is it that when prey have a boundary, sometimes one of the things that we do is look to the other person to validate that boundary before we sort of allow it to be real? Like, it doesn't exist unless you allow it. So if you don't allow it, I can't have it.
So give us an example.
Well, just for what you guys were both sort of talking about in terms of if I have a boundary and the person doesn't respect it, or the person doesn't let me have it, But I'm thinking a real boundary, in some ways, a real boundary will end a relationship if you hold it. Like in a healthy relationship, a boundary is part of what starts a dialogue about how do I hold on to me and love me?
Mutuality.
You're right, but also love you, and that requires the other person to therefore also be saying, how do I hold on to me and still love you? So, but I'm wondering if we're coming at this as prey sometimes, if prey has a tendency to look at a boundary and sort of ask permission for it or be able to be overridden in it. Just, I'm wondering, is it that part of what prey does is we're not willing to break the relationship when our boundaries are violated, or that we don't have confidence that we have a right to have our boundary.
I think it's both of those things.
Unless the other person says it's okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
It does make sense.
I think those two things can be true. And even when you were talking about needing the other person to almost validate the boundary, I think of this strong sense of self, how if you are raised by a predator, you don't often have a strong sense of self because you're defined by how they define you.
Right. Or even if you're raised by somebody who doesn't themselves have a strong sense of self.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know how that relates to being in an intimate partner relationship with a predator, but I know how that relates to myself as being raised by a predator, not knowing what a boundary was, not having a strong sense of self, looking to the predator who is your parent to validate your boundary because you don't even know that they exist because you're so used to. I think of, because a proper boundary is meant to help a child. Like you raise your children, hey, a stranger can't touch you here. They can't speak to you this way. Even a teacher or a coach or a person on the street can't yell names at you because those boundaries are wrong. You need to stand tall for yourself. But when you're raised by a predator, you're not, I think even in a parent-child relationship, the parent is supposed to be safe.
Yeah.
And those, sometimes they will define you as someone who doesn't need boundaries, right? So, because it's not handy or conducive
it's
to them.
definitely more convenient for the prey.
Yeah.
I used to not ask for anything because I thought that if I asked for something, then my predator would say, well, I can't give you that, so I'm leaving. Like, again, it was just
Losing the relationship.
Yeah, characterized by fear.
Was there also a sense that that your boundary had to be validated by the other person to be real or to be valid?
I don't even think I even ever got there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is what I was saying,
Yeah.
is you don't even know that you...
Well, and I'm thinking, like, Amber, I'm guessing in the case of when your parent is a predator, then that's the nth degree of not being allowed to have boundaries as a child. But I'm thinking just as somebody who does a lot of parent coaching with clients, so much of what we have as common parenting techniques violates children's boundaries all the time. So it's pretty hard to be a child in our culture. It's probably getting better. But, for example, a child doesn't want to hug a stranger, or they don't want to hug grandma or give grandpa a kiss, or give, Uncle Billy a kiss. And the parent says, no, go, go give that person a hug. Go give your grandma a hug. Go give Uncle Billy a hug. These small kind of simple ways, or somebody says, I'm hungry. You're not hungry. Yeah, I'm hungry. No, you're not. You just ate.
You're bored.
Yeah. What you are
and maybe
is,
they are bored.
so there's a lot of ways that we, even as non-predators, violate children's boundaries because we have power. Culturally, we do that all the time. There's so many areas where, areas of power, whether that's, a boss violating their employee's boundary, or whenever there's kind of, so I think.
And those get complicated too, because if a child is consistently eating all the time and you're not going to have the chocolate bar. So I want the chocolate bar. You're going to violate their boundary. Like, I want the chocolate bar, their desire for that chocolate bar. You're setting in place, no, you can't have that chocolate bar. So you're setting up a boundary to their impulse. I don't know.
It gets messy.
Gets very messy.
Yeah.
So,
well, I don't see, like, if I want something and somebody says no, then again, I think that's a conversation. So I wouldn't say to my child, let's say my child said, I want that chocolate bar. I wouldn't say no. I would say, you can have that later. Or what is it that you're wanting that for? Are you hungry? Could we? Now we're talking about me respecting that person's boundaries. Well, yes, I'm hungry. Could we get you something that's healthy and nutritious? I'm not sure that that's the best option. What do you think?
So you're talking about boundaries in people and allowing those boundaries to have a talk, a communication.
Well, if we're kind of presenting here today this idea that a boundary is the essence of a boundary is that I have to be able to love me and you at the same time. It does. The foundation of that is I have to be wanting to love you. Mm-hmm. And so in the hands of a predator who, we've talked so much about how the actual essence of love and empathetic understanding of love, where I love you, I see you, we're equals, we have equal value, doesn't exist. Then can a boundary exist with a predator?
It just becomes a weapon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, could we call those pseudo-boundaries?
Yeah, something like a fake boundary or a pseudo-boundary where
it's used to control.
Yeah. Right. So because not only can you not have real boundaries, because it depends on the other person loving you.
My boundary is that you can't have boundaries.
Right.
Which is ridiculous. My boundary in this moment is for you, Jill, and for you, PJ, to not have boundaries. As soon as you have boundaries, you have violated my boundary to have boundaries, which is what you're talking about, right?
Well, and Jill, you were talking about a story from your life where that kind of was part of...
Yeah, it was.
That was sort of the message. Yeah.
My predator opened their own bank account and all of their money went in there, and I was still expected to, buy the groceries, pay the rent, pay the utilities, pay the babysitter. But not only did I not have access to any of my predator's funds, I was also not invited to ask for funds in order to pay the rent, to buy groceries.
So can we pause? Thank you for sharing that story, because I think that's a great one to pause on and look at how the pseudo boundaries work. Mm-hmm. Because that's so what I'm hearing is in that example, that boundary was not loving.
It was meant to control.
Right? Yeah. It didn't include you.
No, not at all. I was not part of the conversation. I was like, this is what I've done.
And I also took care of this person's needs for whatever. They wanted to hoard their money.
Yeah, they went out and they bought a motorcycle, got another degree.
So B, I'm wondering if there's also part of what we can put into this idea of pseudo boundaries is they fluctuate.
They move, which is pseudo.
So
fake.
We don't. A real boundary is consistent. A real boundary has
stakes in the ground. They're stakes.
So yeah, I mean, part of how I teach parents to connect with their kids is to ask themselves, if somebody told me that I had to kiss a person that I felt grossed out by or scared of, but they forced me, they pressured me to go do that, how would I feel? Angry, annoyed, rebellious, resentful, hurt. And so
confused.
And so and I'm just thinking out loud here, part of what I'm actually teaching in that moment is boundaries. is helping them to have the respect for this, have the same respect for their children's boundaries as they would want for their own boundaries. So what you're talking about, though, is a pseudo boundary where your predator said, these boundaries are great for me, but you don't get them.
Right.
Right? I'm guessing.
And they weren't interested in helping me with my needs.
Right.
And nor would you want that boundary. Did you not want to pay rent or pay for your children? Like, you wouldn't even consider that.
No.
You would look and I need to care for my children. I need to pay the bills. I need to pay the rent. You could have done the same thing. Okay, let me lock down my thing and screw our children.
And well, I guess the landlord's not getting paid.
Yeah.
The bank's going to foreclose.
Yeah.
But hey, let's have the same boundary. I'm going to guess that would have led to quite a fight.
Yeah.
And where you're having to justify your boundary.
Yeah.
To the predator. And the predator is not going to allow the same boundaries for you.
It never even occurred to me to have a discussion around it. It was just, this is what has been done. And it's all on me, and that's fine. Because I was willing to sacrifice absolutely everything to keep my relationship.
So there is so this is something else for us to kind of talk through. There is a difference between threatening and a boundary.
Okay, that's key. So what's the difference?
I think a threat is I have no intention of doing it.
Right.
Follow through.
And I'm just using it to frighten you.
Yeah.
And a boundary is, this is intolerable. This violates me on a repeated basis, and I will not allow that. And this is the consequence of those actions. So going back even to parenting with the child with the chocolate bar, you can eat that chocolate bar. I'm not going to rip it out of your hands. Should you choose to eat that chocolate bar, that will be the last chocolate bar that I choose to buy for the next 6 months, 6 years, whatever. So a boundary is, I can't control you. So we often confuse boundaries, I think, with control. I cannot use my boundary to control you. That is predatory. We often do that with kids.
Interesting. It's good.
That is interesting.
But a real boundary respects your boundary. You have a right to eat that chocolate bar that's in your hand. I don't have a right to rip it out of your hand. But I do have a right to have a boundary around that. And so I think but having the strength and the confidence in what you need, and that it is valuable enough to risk the relationship being destroyed, that is a lot to ask of a prey who does not really grasp a lot of times. I know I certainly didn't. Not having this relationship, losing the relationship, is far better than me being in the relationship and not being allowed to have a boundary. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because in order to be in relationship with your predator, you would have had to have no boundaries.
Yes.
So that means you can't be in relationship with the predator because that's the predator's demand. You don't have boundaries.
Because I can't be loving to somebody and be loving to me at the same time. That's what real love is. Like for you with your mom, you really have some tremendous boundaries now. So tell us a little bit about that, because I think that's really interesting. That's a good example of somebody who's had great boundaries.
And I would also like to hear your mom's response to your boundaries.
Yeah. And see, the thing is, remember we talked about predators on a spectrum? I think, too, what's complicated with my predator, it's not a no contact thing.
Right.
And I think there has to be sometimes in a parental thing, there is a no contact. You just can't. The thing that's so great about my predator parent is that there is quite loving moments. And there is a desperate need to be in relationship with me. So that gives me some ability to put those stakes in the ground, because my stakes are, well, I'll just leave. So I'll just go away.
I will withdraw from the relationship.
I will just withdraw, which isn't, I'm not doing it in a way of punish. To punish, to hurt. It's more of like, you're treating me, you're being really mean right now. So I just need to get in my car and leave. And I have to tell myself that, because my instinct is to stay.
Yeah.
And then I have to go, well, why am I letting this person be mean? They're violating my boundaries. So I can get into or I just don't go visit you for a while till you cool down and calm down. And that is the blessing of this person, because they will kind of reconsider what they've done and come towards me, not in an apologetic way. But
I was going to ask if they ever apologize.
Not really. No. I can count on my hand.
But they do change.
They do change. They do have, a spiritual relationship with God, or they believe that, they've been gifted. So there is some insight, even though it's minute sometimes, there is some insight into the cruelty. I think there is some sense that I shouldn't have said that to you.
Well, and what I've observed over the years, watching that relationship kind of develop as you get more and more boundaries, you have to put consequences in, or there is no learning.
Yeah.
So if you had not done the work you've done to get up, to speak your truth, to leave, to not visit, to say why you're not visiting, to say why you're leaving, that you have been through the gamut, like the gauntlet.
All those things.
I don't know.
All those things.
You've been I have seen you fight hard to have a relationship. And like you say, I don't think it's always possible with predators. But in your case, it is, because your predator has been capable of learning from the consequences. I don't know that. I mean, if I said to you, I don't see that she learns from hurting you, but I do see that she learns from you having a boundary and being willing to walk away from the relationship.
I think that has been the learning for her. Exactly. Because I don't think, if anything, it enrages her that I get hurt. But for me, oh, absolutely. It enrages her when I am hurt.
So she doesn't set out to hurt you.
I think it's so ingrained to who they are to kind of be mean sometimes. I think for my predator, I think it's when the stress level or the fear level or the worry level is high and there needs to be a scapegoat.
Yeah.
And let me take it out on you, and you should be okay with me doing that. And then when my face reflects the hurt, that enrages her. Because it's like, how dare you be hurt? Again, you're too sensitive. You're too whatever, blah, 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 blah. And so
then how would she describe or defend her behavior?
Oh, it's like
she doesn't have to, Jill.
No, I don't have to. Plus, you made me do it. Like, you've infuriated me. And if it comes down, if there is some sort of reflection in the moment, it might be like, I have a headache, or, I'm not feeling great right now, so I'm allowed to be like this.
So the message is, you should not be making me feel bad for hurting you.
Yes.
You should let me hurt you.
Yes.
And enjoy it.
You should take it. And so this happened a couple holidays ago, where it just kind of blew up. And it was like, and the thing with me is it gets my enraged, but and hurt. I'm so hurt. I go through like, I'm hurt, I'm sad. And then I'm like, don't treat me this way.
Your boundary starts.
It kicks in, and it's like, do not treat me this way. Don't ruin this celebration for our whole family because you're mad. That's not fair to the rest of my family. And so, when we were discussing it earlier, I was thinking about, there was an issue with this person, and they would want to talk about dating with me. And it's such a sensitive thing with me and this person. And the way that they would breach the topic is by calling me names. So you're such a, one famous one was, you're a eunuch, or any sort of like demeaning sort of, because I don't talk to this person about my love life. And I have a good love life, and I'm not going to share that with you because it's very intimate. It feels very personal to me. And also they've said some quite harmful things to me in the past. So I keep it very close to my chest when I'm with this person. And she used these names. And what it would do in me is it would try to make me prove that I'm not. Mm-hmm. I'm
Which
not.
is what she wanted.
Which is what she wants. Exactly. So I would figure out, be like, no, I went on a date and I'm dating this guy right now. I'm not sure where it's going, and tried to prove that I'm not this unkind name that I was labeled with. Because in a way, the way I was trained is to take these things, and maybe there's a grain of truth in it, and there's something wrong with me. And I remember this moment where I came back and I was like, well, no, and this is what I'm doing, and this is who I'm dating, and this is how long we've been going out for, and I'm not sure. And then I remember she was like, well, I wish you'd just tell me these things, because then I wouldn't have to worry. And then later on, I was like, screw that. Like, you violated a boundary in me to get me to tell you information. Mm-hmm. So even like 2 weeks ago, this person said to me like something about dating, and I just went, I'm not talking about it with you. And that is like one of the first times I've ever done that. I'm like, not talking about it with you. Oh, no, not talking about it. And that was it. Because I have to have that boundary.
And that's a huge boundary to have.
And I didn't explain my boundary. I didn't say, I'm not telling you because, Ma, I'm dating and I really like, this.
Or think you had to fight for it.
No. Yeah. It's like, you know what? You haven't earned the right. If anything, you have earned me being more protective about this part of myself with you. I have to cover, like, this is such an intimate part of who I am, and you have not earned that right. If any way, you violated that right. You've stabbed me in the heart in those areas. So I can't trust you. Mm-hmm. So the way I'm going to trust myself is to go, oh, like, I think that was the epiphany for me. It was like, I am violating myself, my instinct to not tell you by telling you, by you being mean.
Yeah.
I let you stab me in a way with words. Then I feel like I have to owe you. No, I'm not doing that. This is done.
Good job, Amber.
And it begs the question to me, how, being raised by a predator, did you get to the place in this world where you're able to be able to do that? Because I feel like we should be standing up, like, just, giving an applause, a standing ovation at this moment, because I think what you're talking about is where we all as prey want to get to. How did you get there? If you think about your own journey, what are the things that needed to be healed, or how?
I think it's what we were talking about earlier about, in that definition about loving the other person, but also loving yourself. And I think as a prey, we forget that part.
Okay.
It's about loving other people, or the way we're raised, especially if you're raised in a religious environment where it's like, you have to love other people. We don't talk about loving ourselves or acknowledging the smarts of our body and the smarts of our mind. Like, there's a reason why sometimes there's certain things you don't want to say something to someone. Because there's instincts, there's powerful, and even if the person is open and lovely and kind, those part of ourselves will open at some point when we're ready. Those boundaries will open when we're ready. And so I think it was that click of acknowledging, hey, my instincts were correct in not wanting to share this part of myself, because I understood this is not safe and this is too valuable for me. Mm-hmm. So I think it's acknowledging, it's a little self-love, which kind of makes me a little cringe, self-love, but it is self-love. Mm-hmm. It's about loving yourself. And like I was saying, even with that movement voice thing, it was about what's going on for you. What's going on for you when you're in the presence of this person. Thanks for listening. For more resources, you can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Prey vs. Predator, the podcast. If you like this content, please consider supporting us on Patreon. You can choose between a one-time gift or a regular donation for less than a coffee. All donations go towards our production costs so we can continue to do this for years to come. See you next week.